crunch. The mouth on the human face that was formed by the nihility devouring flame emitted a somewhat miserable sharp cry after being ruthlessly bitten by little E. The face began to furiously struggle. Black flames continued to erupt from the face's body. They wildly swept toward little E. Ewa. Little E ignored the retaliation of the nihility devouring flame. The pink-colored flame on his body agglomerated into a crystal-like armor. Regardless of how the devouring flame emitted its devouring power, it was unable to forcefully extract the energy within Little Ye's body. Bang bang! While blocking the devouring power from the nihility devouring flame, Little Ye's tightly clenched fist continued to smash the human face and widen his mouth. Each time he swung his fist, clusters of pink flames would invade the face. The black flames had gradually become a little scattered. Bastard, you actually dare to injure me? The collapsed feeling that was being emitted from the human face made it appear somewhat frightening. It was only a seed flame of the nihility devouring flame, while Little E was a fire spirit formed from the merger of 6 types of heavenly flames, including the purifying demonic lotus flame. Forget about a mere flame seed. Even if its actual form were to appear, it would not be easy to defeat Xiao. Ewa. The current Little Ye's intelligence seemed to be increasing. Not only could he understand the human language, even the emotions on his small face were becoming more lifelike. Hence, a ferocity surged onto his small face after he heard the nihility devouring flames cry. His hand grabbed the huge human face as a monstrous pink flame surged out of his palm. This flame actually wrapped around the nihility devouring flame. You dare to refine me? You are seeking death. The actions of Little E caused a horror to rise onto that human face. Its mouth cried out in a stern voice. The nihility devouring flame had never met anything that could resist its devouring power during all these years, but its mysterious ability, which it was proud of, was completely useless this time around. This is bad. I have lost connection with the fire seed. The chief of the Hall of Souls, who was standing a short distance away, suddenly revealed a different expression. At this moment, the connection between him and the nihility devouring flame's flame seed had been severed. The heavenly flame within this brat's body had undergone a mutation. It is unafraid of the nihility devouring flame's devouring power. I have really miscalculated this time around. The eyes of the chief of the Hall of Souls rapidly flickered. He immediately clenched his teeth, and his body rushed toward the pink fire barrier in the sky. Although this was only a seed flame, it was something that he had spent a long time begging for from the clan. If he slowly refined it, his body would also end up possessing a devouring power. Although this devouring power could not be compared with the nihility devouring flame, it could be considered a killing blow when fighting with others. Moreover, he would have difficulty accounting to the clan if he lost it. Hence, he could not allow any accidents to happen to it. Ha ha, Hall Chief, other people should not intervene in the fight between heavenly flames. However, the chief of the Hall of Souls had only just moved when a figure appeared in front of him like a shadow. That smiling figure belonged to Xiao, who had been watching the chief. The expression of the chief of the Hall of Souls turned cold when he saw Xiao intervene and block him. He wasn't bothered by his diminished Do Qi after it had been devoured by the nihility devouring flame earlier. His body moved and unleashed his sharpest, most ferocious attack on Xiao. Xiao merely smiled because of this wild and violent attack from the chief of the Hall of Souls. He could clearly sense that the current chief of the Hall of Souls was much weaker when compared to earlier. From the looks of it, the nihility devouring flame had swallowed a lot of his Do Qi earlier. The chief of the Hall of Souls was naturally no longer able to pose much of a threat to Xiao in this state. The both of them once again unleashed fierce attacks while little E in the sky widened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of pink flames. These flames were poured into the flame cluster in front of him. That nihility-devouring flame, which was only able to barely block the pressure from the surrounding flames, was finally unable to endure the pressure at this moment. A miserable screech was let out. The black flames that had formed a human face exploded apart. They transformed into black fire snakes that randomly entered and exited the pink fire cluster like headless houseflies. This is bad. The explosion of the nihility-devouring flame caused the expressions on the faces of Hun Qianmo and Old Man Hunimo to drastically change. Both of them exchanged glances and simultaneously rushed forward. They were planning on intervening to rescue the nihility-devouring flame. Are you planning to break the rules? The expressions of Yao Lao's group turned slightly cold upon seeing them move. Both Xiao Qian and the ancestor from the Pill Tower swiftly rushed forward and blocked Hun Qianmo duo. At the same time, the remaining Do Shang class experts from the Sky Mansion Alliance moved and restrained the few elite Do Shangs from the Hall of Souls. In an instant, the fallen mountain had become extremely tense. A complete chaotic battle would erupt at the first sign of a disagreement. Hun Qianmo, my Sky Mansion Alliance is not the least bit afraid of you if the Hall of Souls wishes for an all-out war. Yao Lao cried out in a stern voice. Hun Qianmo narrowed his eyes. He slowly swept his eyes around him. The lineup from both parties was about the same. If they were to really fight, the Hall of Souls would definitely end up with a miserable victory if they even could win. Such a lose was something that the Hun clan was trying its best to avoid. What should we do? A cold glint surged within the eyes of Old Man Hunimo as he softly asked. Hun Qianmo stared intently at the young green-clothed man in front of him. The young man maintained a calm expression. His tender eyes were like a quiet lake, appearing unfathomable. Hun Qianmo had exchanged blows with the young man earlier and naturally understood just how frightening this old demon, who had lived for thousands of years, was. He knew that it would be difficult to defeat the other party, even if he unleashed his entire strength. Everything will continue as it is. Hun Qianmo inhaled a deep breath of air before stating in a low and deep voice. Both parties relaxed slightly after hearing his words. They immediately pulled back some distance. That extremely tense atmosphere was forcefully suppressed. Bang! Little Yi's huge baby hand slammed into the fire cluster when both parties pulled back. That cluster of flames began to wildly rotate before transforming into a firestorm that completely shattered the black flame fire snakes. Finally, he opened his mouth and swallowed the firestorm into his stomach. Although the devouring power was a mysterious energy that only the nihility-devouring flame possessed, the heavenly flames were just like wild beasts. The strong devoured the weak. Due to them coming from a similar origin, the more powerful flame frequently consumed the weaker flame. When Xiao had wanted to obtain the falling heart flame in the past, the flame had coveted the green lotus core flame within Xiaoyan's body. The nihility-devouring flame was ranked second on the heavenly flame ranking. If one were to talk about it, it should be a little stronger than the purifying demonic lotus flame. However, this current devouring flame was merely a seed flame. It was extremely easy for Little E to consume it. Rub. Little E emitted a strange sound from his throat after devouring the seed flame. He immediately patted his stomach in an expression of satisfaction. His body swayed and returned to the size of a lotus, after which his gaze shifted to Xiao, who was battling the chief of the Hall of Souls. Only then did it drift to a spot some distance away from the battleground in front of many pairs of eyes. He beckoned with his hand, and many slowly rotating fire lotuses began to quietly roll around his body. The chief of the Hall of Souls, who was entangled with Xiao, caught a glimpse of these lotuses through his peripheral vision. His heart was so shocked that it trembled. Before he could pull back, Little Yi's fleshy hand pointed him out. Iwa, beat. Swoosh. Little Yi's voice had just appeared when over 10 fire lotuses formed a line that swiftly shot through the sky and wildly exploded on the chief of the Hall of Souls. Rumble. The 10 fire lotuses continuously exploded in the sky. A terrifying fire wave swept apart with a frighteningly high temperature. Those experts, who had originally withdrawn a great distance, once again hurriedly pulled back. Hmph! The 10 fire lotuses might have only been formed by 2 different heavenly flames, but they had stirred a domino effect after the first one exploded. Their might was so strong that it was frightening. Even someone as strong as the chief of the Hall of Souls was blasted until he emitted a muffled moan. A green smoke was miserably formed around his body as he hurriedly pulled back in the sky. The figure floating in the sky pulled back by 10,000 feet. That figure, the chief of the Hall of Souls, finally forcefully stabilized his body. He swallowed the fresh blood that reached his throat. Some shock appeared within his eyes. He had not expected this unassuming fire baby to actually possess such a powerful fighting strength. Hall of Souls chief, you will perhaps lose this match? The moment the chief of the Hall of Souls was feeling shocked by Little Yi's powerful fighting strength, a ghost-like figure suddenly appeared behind him. A sharp wind mercilessly struck his neck. In your dreams. The attack came swiftly, but the chief of the Hall of Souls also reacted quickly. He instinctively turned his body and a punch clashed with Xiao Yan's palm wind. A deep sound exploded at the point of contact. The bodies of the two were sent flying backwards. You are still a little lacking if you wish to kill this chief. The eyes of the chief of the Hall of Souls were gloomy as he glared at Xiao Yan while he flew backwards. He cried out in a dense voice, "Consider yourself lucky this time around. This chief will personally take revenge the next time around. Perhaps you will not have the opportunity." A chill surged within Xiao Yan's eyes, and an icy-cold smile rose from the corner of his mouth. The chief of the Hall of Souls' heart became slightly cold after seeing Xiao Yan's expression. He seemed to have sensed something as he suddenly turned his head. A high temperature pounced over. Another 10 fire lotuses formed a straight line in front of his eyes as they rushed over with lightning-like speed. They violently collided with his body in front of the many shocked eyes from the people all over the mountains. How is this possible? The heart of the chief of the Hall of Souls was shocked because of the frighteningly wild energy that was on a collision course with his body. Rumble. An enormous firestorm swept across the sky. Its terrifying temperature caused the originally moist land to dry and even began to crack apart. Other than some elite doshongs, no one else dared to step within 10,000 feet from the fallen peak. The chief of the Hall of Souls has actually been defeated. The entire mountain range became completely silent as they watched this firestorm sweep through the sky. After being struck head-on by such a ferocious attack, even if the chief of the Hall of Souls could retain his life, he would not be in a good state. It was likely that the victor had been decided. A grave expression surged in the eyes of many people after experiencing this thought. The chief of the Hall of Souls had been a renowned peak expert within the Central Plains for a long time. His fierce reputation had caused many factions to tremble upon hearing his name, establishing the Hall of Souls as the overlord of the region. Now, however, this expert, who had once stirred a bloody storm across the Central Plains, had been defeated by the hands of an up-and-coming member of the younger generation. After this battle, the name of both Xiao Yan and the Sky Mansion Alliance would undoubtedly become extremely dazzling across the Central Plains. This lad is extraordinary. The position of the overlord of the Central Plains will likely change. The Grand Elders and experts of some factions felt such a thought flash through their hearts. They looked at a certain figure in the sky, and an additional solemnness and respect was present in their eyes. The strong were forever honored in this world. The many experts from the Sky Mansion Alliance on the fallen mountain revealed joy on their faces at this moment. Their eyes were filled with pride as they stared at the skinny figure in the sky. The reason Xiao Yin was able to possess such a great reputation within the Sky Mansion Alliance was because of the many battles he had experienced. After this battle today, his status as the spiritual leader of the Sky Mansion Alliance was sealed. If the result of the battle today were to be transmitted back to the Sky Mansion, there was no telling what kind of a commotion it would stir. Everyone understood the meaning of this battle. From today on, if one were to rank the factions of the Central Plains, this one mansion would be ranked above the one hall. In the future, the overlord of the Central Plains would be the Sky Mansion Alliance. Compared to the joy on the Sky Mansion's side, the Hall of Souls was completely silent. Those experts faced each other. They were all a little absent-minded. Not long ago, the mighty reputation of the Hall of Souls still existed within the Central Plains. Any expert who heard this name would reveal a face covered with fear and horror. Yet within these short few years, the Overlord, who possessed a reputation that had once caused one's expression to change, had tasted the bitterness of defeat for the first time. I want to see how you will explain this to the clan. Old Man Hunemo revealed a volatile expression. Those surrounding gazes were extremely irritating. He swung his sleeve and furiously cried out, "The one who laughs last is the true victor. If we did not even possess patience, our Hun clan would have long since disappeared from this world." Hun Qianmo's expression might appear a little sinister, but he still remained indifferent. He coldly glanced at Old Man Hunemo and chided him. Old Man Hunmo's mouth opened upon hearing this scolding. However, he quickly shut his mouth. His face was filled with the dissatisfaction he felt. Hun Qianmo's eyes were dark and cold. The shriveled fist under his sleeve was tightly clenched. "You can all rejoice. Once my Hun clan's plans begin, the Sky Mansion Alliance will be completely annihilated with a flick of his finger." A countless number of people below had various thoughts lingering in their hearts. The firestorm in the sky slowly scattered. A charred black figure shot out from of the storm. That completely black figure was covered with many ferocious-looking wounds. It was even vaguely possible to see some pulsing inner organs. His aura was so weak that it was almost impossible to detect. Clearly, he had suffered an extremely serious injury. Chief of the Hall of Souls. Everyone felt their hearts tense upon seeing the figure. This miserable appearance was naturally the Chief of the Hall of Souls, who had been ruthlessly struck. From his appearance, it was obvious that he no longer had any ability to fight. At this moment, some of the experts from the Hall of Souls, who had been holding out for a miracle, felt completely hopeless. Xiao Yin. This chief will not forget this grudge. The chief of the Hall of Souls slowly landed on the ground in a weak manner. However, he struggled to open both of his blurry eyes. A hoarse and weak voice was slowly emitted before being transmitted into Xiao Yan's ear. From the sky, Xiao Yan's indifferent eyes stared at the chief of the Hall of Souls, who had suddenly landed. A cold glint flashed within his eyes. One should get rid of a problem at its roots. This chief of the Hall of Souls might be seriously injured not, but with the skills of the Hun clan, he would probably be lively again after resting for a couple of months. At that time, he might be able to command the Hall of Souls into causing some trouble. This was something that Xiao Yin did not like to see. Since you have been defeated, you should leave your life behind. A murderous intent surged within Xiao Yan's heart. He moved and descended toward the chief of the Hall of Souls with lightning-like speed in front of many pairs of eyes. From his surging murderous intent, it was obvious that he was intending to deliver a final blow while his opponent was down. "Xiao Yin, how dare you?" This sudden, unexpected change also startled the members from the Hall of Souls. They did not expect Xiao Yin to be this ruthless. Not only had he won, he was also planning to kill. Imph, you should repay some of the blood debt you owe to my Xiao clan. Xiao Yin completely ignored those cries. His body flashed and appeared above the head of the chief of the Hall of Souls. His palm furiously slammed toward the top of the chief's head. From the looks of his sharp palm wind, the chief's head would definitely split like a watermelon if struck. The eyes of the seriously injured chief of the Hall of Souls, who was paralyzed, revealed a horror in the face of death after seeing the palm wind falling from above his head. Xiao Yin, you are seeking death. A furious thunder-like cry suddenly rumbled beside Xiao Yan's ear just as his palm was about to strike the Hall of Souls chief's head. The space around Xiao Yan's body became distorted. Hun Qianmo appeared with a gloomy expression. His shriveled fist was clenched as it smashed toward Xiao Yin with lightning-like speed. From the looks of it, he was intending to force Xiao Yin to stop his attack. Humph! A cold glint flashed across Xiao Yin as Hun Qianmo attacked. His palm wind did not weaken. A thought passed through his mind and Littley appeared on his shoulder. Littley waved his small hand and many fire lotuses quickly flew forward, after which they collided with Hun Qianmo's hand. Bang bang! A hot fire wave swiftly spread from the explosion. However, that shriveled fist penetrated the fire wave and smashed into Xiao Yan's chest with lightning-like speed. Grug! Xiao Yan spat out a mouthful of fresh blood after suffering a serious injury. Hun Qianmo's punch contained the desire to kill. Fortunately, there was some fire lotuses obstructed it. Hence, it was not fatal despite injuring Xiao Yan. Moreover, Xiao Yan's palm had still managed to ruthlessly smash into the head of the chief of the Hall of Souls when Hun Qianmo's punch landed on his body. Bang! Xiao Yan's palm contained an extremely great strength. Hence, the chief of the Hall of Souls' head was blasted into a bloody mist. Additionally, the lingering force wildly roamed around his body and blasted it into a complete mess. Xiao Yan did not continue to observe the body after managing to strike his target. He swallowed the blood in his mouth and quickly withdrew. Bastard! Xiao Yan's body had just pulled back when Hun Qianmo discovered that the chief of the Hall of Souls' body had been blasted into a complete mess. His eyes turned crimson. A roar that was filled with murderous intent reverberated around the sky. He lifted his head and glared at Xiao Yan. His hand grabbed across the distance, and the space where Xiao Yan was flying collapsed, sealing Xiao Yan in the process. D. Hun Qianmo's body flashed after sealing the space around Xiao Yan. His face was filled with a ferocity as he appeared in front of Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan's eyes were sinister as they stared at the ferocious Hun Qianmo. A thought passed through his heart, and the extermination fire lotus began to gather in his palm under his sleeve. Hun Qianmo, deaths and injuries are unavoidable during a battle. You should not break the rules. The green-clothed figure slowly appeared in front of Xiao Yan, just as Xiao Yan was about to unleash the extermination fire lotus on this old demon. A calm voice followed. It was the ancestor from the Pill Tower. Old Ghost, are you really planning to completely oppose my Hun clan? Hun Qianmo's eyes were dense as he stared at the ancestor from the Pill Tower before uttering each word with a pause. Hun Qianmo, it is pointless to threaten me. The ancestor from the Pill Tower merely smiled before giving a reply after hearing Hun Qianmo's threat. Hun Qianmo's shriveled face twitched. He was aware that it was impossible for him to kill Xiao Yan today with the ancestor from the Pill Tower obstructing him. His eyes gloomily glanced at Xiao Yan. His hoarse voice was filled with a murderous desire. Xiao Yan, it is not easy to kill a member of my Hun clan. Your fate will definitely be 100 times more miserable than Xiao Xin in the future. Thank you for informing me. Xiao Yan coldly laughed. It was not the first time he had heard such words from a member of the Hun clan. Hemph, the next time we battle, your Sky Mansion alliance will be exterminated. Hun Qianmo swung his sleeves. He gave a dense, cold smile before turning around and rushing back to the chief of the Hall of Souls' exploded body. A black fog surged from his hand, and he absorbed the shattered soul of the chief into the fog, after which he landed on the ground with a dark and solemn expression. He did not speak. Instead, his body moved and he rushed out of the fallen mountain range. Those experts from the Hall of Souls could only follow behind him in a dejected manner. Unfortunately, I was unable to completely incinerate the chief of the Hall of Souls' soul. Xiao Yin grinned as the members of the Hall of Souls left. He felt somewhat regretful. That old fellow had managed to collect the remains of the soul of the chief of the Hall of Souls. Given the abilities of the Hun clan, it might be possible to revive him. You are too greedy. The Hun clan is not as easy to deal with as you imagine. The ancestor of the Pill Tower turned around. He stared at Xiao Yin before he shook his head and softly laughed. I never believed that anyone would be able to deal with the Hall of Souls in the past. However, I am beginning to believe it slightly at this moment. This descendant of the Xiao clan might really be able to achieve the ambition that Xiao Xin was unable to complete back then.